Going on, guys? It's Cal here from Buffalo Sports Center. Today we are going to be discussing the new biggest saga with the MLB, the Torpedo bats. Now, this is something that everyone is talking about. You've definitely heard of it by now. Basically, a torpedo bat is a bat that has moved some of the mass to the end of the bat. It's about 6 to 7 inches lower, so it gives the bat kind of a bowling pin shape, but the end is much thinner. So again, the barrel being moved in towards the hands a little bit, giving it that bowling pin shape. Now, this torpedo bat was designed by Aaron Leonhardt. He was a physicist hired by the Yankees, who was kind of put on the spot to come up with some new ideas, right? Not necessarily, hired for the purpose of making a torpedo bat, but again, these teams have gotten so in depth with advanced analytics, statistics, all that sort of stuff. So they hired him to kind of come up with some new concepts or ideas to make baseball a little bit easier to be played. And again, every sport does this, right? Every sport has hired, these super smart minds to try to come up with little ways to get their team ahead of others. The Yankees were one of those teams. This guy has since moved on and has been hired by the Marlins, but this development did happen last season, and obviously a lot of teams were caught off guard, right? We saw it with the Yankees opening weekend, and I've never seen a torpedo bat in my life, but other teams had it, right? It wasn't just the Yankees, and it was a thing. It was just not kind of a well-known thing at the time. Now everyone knows about it because the Yankees put up 20 runs a couple times in the first week, and since then haven't looked as good, but still, these torpedo bats have definitely helped certain players like Jazz Chisholm. I know on the Mets, Francisco Lindor is trying one out. A lot of guys around the league have said they're going to be ordering them very soon and trying them out within the next month or two. So it's way too early to tell whether these torpedo bats have a positive or negative impact on hitting, but the early indicators say it has definitely made it easier to hit. Now, the MLB certainly values hitting more than pitching. Pitchers are obviously very upset about these torpedo bats because most pitches that would jam hitters, or if you have the analytics on a guy, say like Jazz Chisholm, you could get him with that inside cutter, inside curveball, inside slider. You could get him. Now with this torpedo bat, he gets his hands in a little bit different. He's going to be hitting that one outside the park, especially at Yankee Stadium with a short porch in right field. This completely changes the game for pitchers who have to now take that into account, and some of the analytics that they've studied mean absolutely nothing now with a different sweet spot on the bat. Again, a couple inches in baseball makes the difference, whether it's a strike, whether it's a ball. Now all of a sudden it's whether the barrel's 4 inches up or 5 inches up or 3 inches up. It all, matters, and inches can really lead to feet that can lead to, runs or outs. And it's one of those things where, if I had to make an opinion on it, I think it's legal, right? There's no rule against these torpedo bats. There's no rule against it. And you look at other, equipment in the MLB, there's no real regulations on a lot of the stuff, right? A lot of guys can wear different guards, different, elbow guards, helmets, different sliding mitts. There's no real regulations on that stuff. Gloves, again, first baseman obviously have bigger gloves. Outfielders have bigger, longer gloves than infielders. There's a lot of customization in the MLB, and that's something that, it's an important thing, right? Because you want a league to be pretty standard where, the best team wins, but also you want to leave a little bit of room for smart minds to come up with good ideas to put their team ahead, at least for a little bit. And that's what happens, right? Somebody comes up with a good idea, the team that originated with it or takes advantage of it gets a little bit of a jump, and then everyone starts doing it. It becomes consistent, and then, the team has to come up with a new thing to put them ahead. This torpedo bat thing, I think, is just a little blip in the road. I think, they will continue to have these torpedo bats for the foreseeable future. I think that will be one of those things that you see more and more as the season goes on. Now, Pete Alonso did have a good quote about these. He said he's going to look into these torpedo bats, but he feels like it's more of the fisherman than the fishing pole. It's all about the hitter. And, a lot of these guys are MLB players. They can absolutely mash baseballs with regular bats. I'm sure there's some guys that would use a torpedo bat or the current torpedo bat that has the barrel moved in, and they would hate it, right? It's all specialized. So that brings us to the point, if there should be more versions of this bat, and if they could have this kind of bat, why not have another bat that has the barrel somewhere else? Again, there's no rules or regulations against these bats. We saw the axe bat a number of years earlier, where the knob of the bat was kind of sliced in half, and it helped guys get around a little bit. Now we're just seeing modifications to the barrel, and I think as long as they're not going up there with some super thick barrel that's gonna easily hit. Again, you'd have to be like blind or something to not hit the ball with that barrel. I think it's completely fine and legal. Now, again, pitchers are going to complain, hey, you made us get rid of spider tack, you made us get rid of a lot of other things, and this ball flies. This is one of the it's not the most jump baseball that we've seen. Again, a couple seasons ago, they had those juice balls that just every other pitch was a home run, it seemed. But the balls are still nowhere near like the old days where you really couldn't get a lot on them. And a couple times we've seen the balls get juiced. The steroid era. Obviously, the balls were a little bit easier to hit out there as well. Then it got harder a little bit, and it goes, up and down, up and down. But again, the MLB values batting, they value hitting, and they'd much rather produce a game that has a 9-8 score than a 2-0 score. I think they know that the audience wants to see hitting, at least the general audience. Again, a lot of baseball fans would more likely want to see a pitching duel. But if you're tuning in to Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN or wherever it's going to be next season, because I know ESPN sold their rights, a lot of people are going to want to see hits, and they keep talking about Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, right? The most famous players right now are hitters instead of pitchers, and for a while there in the mid 2000s, you could say there were a lot of pitchers that had bigger names than hitters. So again, we look at these Torpedo bats, and yeah, they are a little bit thicker in different spots with a wider barrel, but there's really nothing that is against them. And it's really, if you wanted to regulate this a little bit, you could say a maximum total thickness, right? Where maybe, let's just make up a number and put it 30 units, right? You could have 30 units of thickness on this bat. Some people might have, I'm going to have 20 units where I hit the ball the most, and then it's going to get super skinny, right? And as crazy as that sounds, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because then pitchers can just abuse them. Okay, well, the end of your bat's super skinny, but the barrel's huge. I'm just going to keep throwing you away, and you can't touch it. When you do, it's just going to be, ricocheted into the dirt. So there's really not too much they can do unless they really just allow thicknesses of all over. But I think it's legal. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you have some sort of rule where you can't have the whole thing, a big barrel, right? You have to have obviously a standard bat, and it's one of those things that pitchers are gonna hate. But I think pitchers will be able to outsmart these Torpedo bats and also find ways to make them a disadvantage. Like I said, pitching outside, making guys reach for them where the barrel would normally be, but maybe it's not anymore. So it's one of those things where I think these players are making a big deal out of something that can easily be overturned and easily be just as much of a disadvantage as an advantage. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about these Torpedo bats. Again, it's an interesting development. Everyone's talking about it. I've certainly been intrigued by them, but also I think again, like I said, a couple millimeters can change everything in the MLB. But I don't think this is as big of a deal as some people have made it. Thank you guys for watching this video, and peace out.